Traveling through wind factors and communication line streams is all about understanding how to put yourself in calculations. Now, it interlines its calculation interference. You have to understand when it comes into your senses to recognize your position to your inhibitors. Inhibitor line center locations all levels. What's going to happen today in Heinlein Center, I'm going to turn you guys into all levels of kind of like a microline center in rotation interference position location line system outside loading line center locations. We're going to see the birth line of communication or perception and how you integrate your line systems to positions of your moons. The Heinlein center location has to really recognize you and always informs to get an emotional system program setting to its location line conditions. Right? The moonline center is basically put in your position location of calculation. How to use it is all levels of you through trifactor. The factor in communication is its manufacturing line connection. It's all levels of liquid. It's all levels of position, location, and calculations of metal. It's highline centers of channels. It's communication and operation. It sets signals in your position to your sense lines. Communication on the line when you come into that formation locations and hearing these things, seeing these things, understanding these things, tasting these things, knowing these things through its intelligent locations, right? There's two aspects in life. Passion and travel. Travel here, passion here. The male aspect location is its knowledge of its activity system, which is action. It's positioned to its program setting. Now, when it comes into its emotional system, it's all calculated to the female line center. Now, the moon's surface is on the female line rotation track line system. Its allocate line centers a program to your emotional system. It sets courses to your lines. In calculations, so how you use your digital framing, digital coding, code weaving, line center interference. You guys will start to pick these things up. How important it is to have your moon in position of direction. Okay, so it's going to be very powerful today. Once we get in that calculation, make sure you get into your navigations, make sure you get into your pre-flights, because what's going to happen, I'm going to turn you guys into microdots. So when you go in that line center in direction, you guys are now that line system. See how that works? It's all levels of travel. Knowing what just happened. Are you paying attention to these things? So how often do you look at the moon? How often do you look at the sun? How often do you look at anything in position, location, and directions, right? Channeling within is just a basic understanding, but it's all levels of how to use the conscious line. Remember, you stay in the position of the subtronic line. You stay the above line center interference. You never stay in the balanced position of anything because you're always curious of what happens the next day. You're living a 7-day cycle in position, location, directions. Now, the 7 line center location is its position at all levels. You have the box position and you have the triangle line system. Box equals triangle. Triangle equals box. Male communicates with female. Female communicates with male. But it's all position of direction. The moon channels in so many lines of atmosphere location into one universal line connections. But how many galaxies does it set its line system position at all levels? Now, the moonlight center could be 1.5 million light years away in calculation line system. Now, it's all position, location, and directions, how you use your flux capacitors. Your channel operation is all in its position of its directions. Holding signals, holding line center, interference location, the radio signals is its line connections. How you use your gamma interference, your travel line center rotation its calculations. Traveling through the mind system is already in its program setting, but it's already set in line center interference. Now, when you look outside through perception and you're going in line center, you're seeing the moon in the future line. Okay? The moon is trying to understand you through perception. Do you understand what a moonbeam is? Right? It's like those rings you put on your finger and it changes the energy signature locations. Green means happy. Yellow means the sun. Okay? In position of blue, changes colorations of your throat line. It's all positionalization of color. I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm angry and frustrated. Trying to understand this. I don't think I understand that. So your emotional moon is position of directions to understand you through all levels, through your human resonance. Balancing your communication of levels of its vibration. And it's extremely important that you look at the moon every night to its line connections. It has to recognize you through perception, how it sees you through the eye center. Because every time you look at the moon, it's looking at your eyes. It's looking at your structure. It's looking at your hologram. It's looking at your features. It's looking at your emotional system. It's looking at your heart. It's looking at everything in location inside of you through application. Right? Because the computer line center of all position location, the moon is a surfacing line position of an operation of you inside through emotion. How to use it is totally up to you, right? So it's important you understand how to use it because it has so many communication platforms. Now, your provision gives you an aligned center interference. Let's say you're in 5,000 capacity high position location of brain capacity aligned center rotations. In that calculations, that's 5 million channels per second through the moonline center of perception. Okay, that's how it reads your capacity high system. So the moon is going so fast in so many lines. It's a particle line. So it's like when you're looking at star line systems or anything Starlinks or anything UFOs and they go in and out like this. Well, that's what the moon is doing. It's doing that. So once understand you more, it comes in, locks its frame, and then it comes back, right? Waking up the system is this basic example. To get in communication to its emotional system is all levels of its female aspects of you. Male or female, it doesn't matter. You need the yin and yang process to understand the light and the dark line interference. The dark position locations are levels. Dark represents line centers of space. Light represents locations of youth of the heart. And yin and yang is the process location that centers its position location in its calculations. It puts you in all directions to its position. But it's all about balancing your emotional system of the psychological of you psychosophications. That puts you in a better positions how you use your system adaptation. Okay. All right. Let's see. So your travel locations, airline center interference, code signals are already set up. So Pam, how's it going? Adam, how's it going? Lindsay, Gypsy, Don, Terry, Johnny, Michael, Amby, Jill, Heather, Airbender. Great to see everybody. Michelle, True Light, Gypsy. Let's see here. Val, Jessica, Pyra. All right. So the airline center 2 calculations is trying to understand the position of where you are through track location. It gets a better understanding how your inner line is positioned. So the higher ranked line center, they're in a 48,000 line in communication. So they're between 3 to 4 to 5 days ahead of schedule. So they know exactly what's going on before it's happening. That's precog, right? Your atmosphere changes with you in time. Now it comes into so much interference. The interference location could be a good thing, or it could be an off thing. Off position, off calculation, offline, right? So you got to learn how to set position, location, and directions. Space works for you inside, not outside line. To communicate to your moon is from inside. Your perception sees everything from outside of its avatar. Living the system of AI position, which is its awareness of its information, to its operation of its perception to its location. Okay. So you really, really have to understand how it modifies you in all line center. Okay. Traveling through the line center location of the birth rotation line center is the birth location of you. Eyes are the windows of the soul. I could see this in so many line position location of angles, and you'll still get the same equation. So center line communication, setting signal locations. All right. So if you're in a thought line center, your position locations, your moon is now blue, right? Because you're thinking blue, you are blue, right? So the moon is in a perception line condition. How it's made through structure, right? Because remember, the moon can be anything through color. The moon can be anything through rainbow because that's where you want to be in position location of thought. Don't have a process of anything through calculations. When you get up in the morning, don't think of anything. Get into knowing and doing. Knowing equals doing. The known to the unknown to the phenomenon gives you everything position location to, but what you see through perception. The perception comes into its remote viewing, into its visionary cortex. Now, once you get into that position, you start seeing locations in position. The moon only sees you through heat signatures. It sees you through the computer, it sees where you are through the heart, and it sees you are through the mind system locations. Balance, right? So in that position location, you're connecting to the moon line center because you have the throat pattern interference line channel that's off calculation. So the moon recognizes your program setting. If your emotional system, the vibration will change position, location, and direction. Okay? So high signals and high line centers. You got 3 waving locations as positions, right? So this is how the moon works in position, location, and directions, right? What am I creating? High center locations of A, high connections, in all position and direction to its pyramid. Okay? So understanding how the moon integrates its line center. The crevice and the communication line system is all about understanding the birth line, rotation center location. So in that track line center, it's a moonbeam set in signal to your perception of communication of light. It tracks its interference in position to its direction. Okay? Because the moon has a face and always informs. It's a reflection of you to its mirror resolution. The moon is an emotional system. It's the most powerful thing you have inside through travel, through passion. Passion becomes travel. Travel becomes the mind. The mind becomes position location to its imagination, to its known, to the unknown, to its phenomenon. Okay? Getting into the phenomenon position location, your moon sets line connections of signals in your direction. Okay? When it sets signals in line direction locations, open up code systems, sector, vector, quadrant line center interference, line conditional levels, interdimensional line interference, and turn it into one position location. Travel locations, birth line centers, all levels of the moon. There you go. Now you travel through moon line centers, birth line centers, turning you guys into microdot communication system. There you go. Have fun. All right, so line center interference. To understand how the moon has its own reflection locations. Let's say you're on a night line center and you're seeing the moon and the skylines, and you have to understand how it has its own reflection. The moon can be anything through coloration. It's all position, location, and directions. So it sets your programs every single day. Every single day. The moon doesn't see light or dark. It only sees you through energy signature locations. It only sees you through your program setting. It only sees you through emotional system. It only sees you through vibration. It doesn't see you through light or dark. Okay? So whatever you're feeling, it's reflecting to your moon position of its mirror resolution. Okay? Setting sonar position, location, and directions in your waving system location. Okay? Now, understanding templates, high channel line centers, position, location, line connections. Let's go into red circle location. It's interesting too because the moon surfaces in so many emotional lines. It's how to use your visionary cortex line communication. So let's say it changes red. Okay, so the moon is now red. Okay, so the moon is now red, right? So in position location, it's reading signals to you in position and direction, right? So you turn red. So what is red position location? Security, measure, program, setting, calculation, right? So all you got to do is bounce out emotional system. Comes in 3 waving system locations calculations. Puts position of program setting into past, into present, and into its future line communication. Okay? Setting wave cycles and high channel communication system. Okay? Setting graph channels and communication line streams in position, location, and directions. Right? Setting a hologram structure of you to a simulation. All right? So the moon sets up your emotional system every single day. It's all connected to human resonance. It's the most powerful thing to have in line center interference. Now the sun is out in position, but the moon's over here and surfacing, even though it's dark. So the emotional track is where? Where's the emotional track? Here, right? It's right here, all here, but the sun is here, right? It doesn't look like much, but you always have light and dark in everything. Light of the existence of its position, location of channel, okay, and dark of its resistance of its location of its emotional system. That tracks position locations into yin and yang. The process of communication is truly understand your emotional lines, how you're calculating to modify, and how you're traveling through your emotional system. So if you go outside and you're angry, you change the position location to the moon, all through aggression. All right? You change the coloration. Now, red is security. Remember, you have 12 track locations of colors that's in you, transmitting and receiving information, right? Understanding the energy track in different locations, you can turn your position locations to another color line center. Okay, it's interesting. Let's go into the green line system. Now your moon is green. Okay, so this is you changing your moon or perception to the eye circle location of receptor. So if the moon is green line center interference, it changes program cell locations. Now, if you don't understand your line center and you stay red, you're going to confuse the moon of its solar surface. It's going to set wrong signals in position of direction, overlap your line center location, position of direction. Setting signals in the wrong direction locations, open up new channel line center interference, a confusing to its position of direction. All because of the moon, right? So there's a lot of things you have to understand through track location, how to understand the moon through its creation. So when you understand the eye receptors, the eyes are the windows of the soul line, it opens up the galaxy communication system. The moon can travel anywhere it wants. So wherever the moon is traveling, you are traveling because you're connected to each other. Vector line centers of the sun and moon communication, you are the center operation. So like I said, if I'm moving here or here, it doesn't matter, right? Wherever you go, it goes. It follows you, right? So if you're confused to the brain system location, and let's say you have a bad day, the moon's going to set a new program setting, a new coloration path. What's going to happen? It's going to set up beacon-like position directions and open you up through sonar lines, right? It's like getting signals from the moon. Program setting, portal handling, interference location, line connection, position, not track location, bring you back emotional system. That's the equation. So that's communication in the moon system. Telling you to change your emotional system into the positive position location to its calculations. Being assertive locations of being into all levels of acceptance of what's going on, position location to your moon system to perception. Every time you change your emotional system, you're affecting your moon system of the atmosphere line. It changes everything, the high center. It changes the community. It changes your animals. It changes your structure. It changes your grounds. It changes your powers. It changes your emotional system. It changes your vibration. It changes everything in your system locations. And it interlines its calculation to its emotional system of its heart. Heart is passion, compassion of compassion. Understanding your passion, understand your travels. You understand your travels, you understand your passion. The moon doesn't understand your connection. Right? Now we understand the interweaving, interwoven, high center location, interlocking, interconnecting to position, interfacing. You're finally interfacing. What you fear the most is the moonlight center location of emotion. That's why it's so important to communicate with your moon every day. Right? So it's a lot of things you have to understand the moon. So many deep levels, guys, and so many waving position location calculations. All right. 37 Delta. Hey, as a walls protect. Yeah, we just activated you. Great. Welcome. You have no clue what's up. Okay. So don't worry about everything. So it's just trying to understand all formations from its beginning. You'll get a better understanding how to use the communication to levels of vibration line system. So when I'm communicating with everybody, it's through their avatar, and their avatar is understanding everything through travel. Travels out of their location to its imagination, imagination to the known, to the unknown, to the phenomenon. It's all about understanding vibration. That's all it is, because that's all we live in, this vibration. Understanding the vibration is to understand the energy of form, position locations times calculation times pi. Matter fraction communication of factor O communication line system is this position location its calculation. True to understand how to use this is all formation of its passion, of its travel. Okay? So you'll catch on. All right, add spinning in the dots, wave grass coming in like Lucy. Oh, cool. Seeing all programs in sequence. Let's do it. Yeah, and the thing is too, is that when you basically understand more position location of the moon can change another color line center. Let's go into purple in position location directions. Now your moon is now purple. Now purple is line centers and how you resonate location of space, right? It's purple. So it always stays in the apsier line. Now, if you change your thought line, it changes position of path. So that's important to understand is don't have an open position of an open frequency to an open channel, because the moon knows exactly what you're going to say even before you say it through emotional system. It's your Schumann resonance that's offline conditions. It sets wave position locations off calculation in position of off direction. See? So it confuses its anomalies to its position of its directions to your connection. All right? So balancing communication emotional line center has to be in a track line communication system. Now the moon surfaces on so many line positions of travel. Let's go through line center interference, direct locations. All right, so we got a box position locations into a circle line communication system. Now the moon is surfacing over here. It can create anything in a line system. It has its own technology. The moon is basically just a perception location of you through emotional track location. So the moon can go from here to here and go over here. The moon can be right beside you and you wouldn't even know it, right? So inner line center scans your position location, seeing where you are through emotional system. So you have to truly understand that the moon can be anywhere. The moon is a probe. The sun is a probe. It moves in so many direct locations with calculations. So if it's trying to get your attention, it's right beside you. See? Solar graph line stream. Once you scan the scan line in a rotation, it scans the center position location of you through directions, understand where your grounds, where your powers are off, and where you are in your magnetic field position of direction. Direction of everything is all levels of understanding your clocking system. We got into that calculation system. But the moon is so many calculated and so many lines of forms of digital framing. It's too confusing to understand what your moon is until you understand you and all line center in direct locations to its position to know exactly what you're seeing. Okay? To know exactly what you're seeing. To know exactly what you're seeing. Is to know exactly what you're seeing. Okay? Seeing is everything. Now, if I put my hand line center interference, you only see the one position locations, but what you don't understand is you don't see the other side. How do I get to see this? I see this, but I can't see this. How do I see the other side? Switch it? No. You have to understand how to go around it. You have to understand how to circulate through it. Rotate, circulate, rotate, circulate. Right? Understand the E field. Understand the force within, the chi. The moon has a chi, has an aura, has a reflection location that crosses the waters, right? That moon beams right through the top of your position location to the sun line. So it integrates line center and interference locations. Now the sun and the moon come together. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, the sun comes out at night? Yep. You don't see it yet, do you? Because all you see is what you want to see. Not right. So in that position, you have a river like this. Okay. Now, moon's over here, sun's here, into direction location, into flux capacitance system. V line center, okay, equals location of box, position, location, equal line center, location of triangle. So that's male and female communicating, position locations, the vector line center, location, the sun and the moon. So the sun comes in position directions, the moon comes in position directions to its calculations. They set up a beam center into the center line communication that sets up all levels to light stream of water. That's how a moonbeam crosses its river position locations. And then you see all of the river stream. Anything through a lake, anything through an ocean line system. It allocates line centers. And remember, just because you want to see something, just because you're trying to understand it doesn't mean that it's there for you to understand until you understand yourself first. It has to recognize you and all levels of emotion. You got to balance your emotional system. If you can't find a way to balance out your emotional system, you're never, ever going to see your moon in perception. All right. And the same thing location with your sun. So the sun and the moon come together. That's what creates the light. Right? You're thinking, so wait a minute. If the position of the sun comes out at night, does that mean that the sun can come out at night too? Yes. So you have to understand that everything is created line centered inside position of space line. It's a communication operation location. So to understand all levels of view is understanding position of light. This is light. This is all light. All right. Now, as you see my hand traveling through it. You see it on the other sideline. You see, it's directing, right? It's directing sunlight, right, to its moon. See the light strip of my hand line center? Recognizing detail, what you're seeing through perception. My hand is traveling. See my hand? Hey, there you go. Hey, there's my hand. It's on the other line. It's on the other side. You understand? It's in its galaxy, but it's traveling through its glass, right? So it's understanding you need the light and the dark to basically see its position location of travel. It's interesting to look at that, right? The sun and the moon can actually be at night at the same time because we're only living one timeline. We're not living 7 timelines at graph locations of 7 days a week, guys. Only one position all at once. The different frequency line communication system is truly understand the recognition of line centers. So once you get into that position location, it gives you in all levels how to ground more of your system position of direction, right? It's mostly understanding how to look at yourself in all ways and forms, how to merge the communication to the birthing system location to your moon perception, how you see things through the eye circle locations, right? The eyes. What is the eye? What is the determination of the eye? What does it represent, right? Everything through position locations, everything through down positions, everything through sideline communication, intelligence. So it recognizes everything through form. It sees the system, it sees the communication line conditions. It sees line direction to its flux capacitor in position of direction. Okay? It sees all levels of operation in center line conditions into position, all levels of travel communication. Right? The interline communication comes into all ways and forms of structure to all formation of communication system. All right. So understanding the full operation is truly understanding you from inside. It's the eye line center of view, of perception, how you see everything. So when you travel through your eye position locations, you actually go way, way, way in position, not the past line, in the future line. The communication inference location is creation. Now, understanding the source of your co-creation is creation on its own. Now, once you understand where the eye is going, it's always constantly in a travel line position location of going forward in a clocking system. Clocking system this way, 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 this way. All the way locations, all at once, simultaneously, right? Sun position over here, moon position over here, sun position over here, moon position over here. Okay? How it constantly travels all at once. So it's always introductory locations in your position, always in the line center. You are always in the center operation locations. So understanding your position locations, let's change the coloration so you can see that in the system. All right, so you got a triangulation. Okay, it's really fun too when you understand more lines. So you got a triangulation location in this position. Okay, 369 pattern. All right. So it's all about the moon can set up anything through travel. It can travel through anything through time, anything through space, anything through galaxy, anything through universe. The moon is a teleportation unit, guys. So is the sun. It has to, because you're doing the same thing. But wait a sec. Am I doing the same thing, or am the same thing? You are the position of the sun. You become the sun. You become the moon. You merge in position locations to all of the system into triangulation. So your triangulation becomes everything through the ground system. We open all communication system. Line center rotation, so all levels of particle line conditions, all level position of directions. Center operation locations taking all positions of a new diamond line center interference in direction location. It channels in all lines, guys. It's very powerful stuff when it comes in position. So it comes in line center. Now, it's all about understanding what the moon can create. It can create anything through emotional systems. It can create anything through geometry interference. Intelligence in all ways and forms becomes everything of position of direction. They don't have to worry about the intention, the will, the force, the co-creation, creation to the location, because they're already there. They've already created it. The moon surfaces on some in-line position location, and it's just trying to understand you through emotional system. And if you don't understand the moonlight center, you're going to have a full reaction location to its program setting. If you don't understand your locations to all levels of your GAD, you're going to have a huge problem in your future line communication system. Allocate timeline center interference in position of program setting. Setting offline position locations to your CPUs, your computer program unit. Now, you don't want to off position location or anything location, especially when you come into 001 or 0001. If you're in a 144,000 line communication system, but your integrated line center is only in a 24 line position location, not only are you confusing the moonline center interference, but you're not going to have light position of direction location, so it's calculation. You all have to learn how to create your geometry location of high levels of travel. You're a teleportation unit. Become that. Be that in the now position locations. And this is how you merge into transforming of its position location of calculation. This gives you a better understanding how you create these things in the mind system of geometry setting. Position of directions. Let's go through another coloration. Okay. Now, you can set up Fibonacci sequence squares. Fibonacci sequence squares is circle line and rotation calculation interference. You start with that position locations. You change line center. Now, the Fibonacci actually becomes a square communication system, but it's still a swirl. Okay. So let's go into a different color line so you can see what I'm showing you. You're standing the calculation that gives all forms, right? That's position of directions. So it's very powerful when you really, really understand what you're dealing with the moon. Box position, speed box position, comes into triangulation, high force its line communication, downshifts its line communication system, opens new triangle line settings to all position locations, to new box position location directions. One window, two window line center in position location to calculations, forming line communication systems all at once. So there's a lot of things you have to understand how to use yourself through perception. How you recognize this is all through emotional system, right? So let's say you basically pinch your skin. It hits a nerve, right? Well, it's also connecting. You're pinching not just the nerve, the skin, you're pinching the moon. That's how connected you are to everything. Your particle stream, your photons, your electrons, your neutrons is reacting to everything through motion of the moon. The moon is not outside, it's inside of you. Your projection. So it's a film projection, right? So you're seeing it from this position. Oh, moon's here. Okay, so we're here. All right, that's good. Let's set a new geometry interference position, retract. Reposition the moon. Back in position. So you are moving the moon position of everywhere in directional location to your emotional system. Your moon goes where you go, or the moon controls you. Right? Same thing with the sun. All right. So you really have to understand all levels of you inside, because it's all created through yin and yang line system. It's position of directions, right? So let's say you get a moon line center. Moon equals line connections, all levels. Okay. Operation equals perception. Okay. So inline rotation position. So N line center comes into metric communication system. Okay. The metric lines. Line communication equals XD line, which is, we already know the XD. Anything in XD, you can box its position, location, and directions. So that comes into calculation of velocity, right? Velocity, position, location is its volume. Volume equals calculation. Calculation equals times pi. Position and direction. All right. There's its equation location to its moon system. Now, understanding line centers is trying to understand you through provision, right? How to use your line centers. It's basically understanding to travel through anything is through emotion. And that's the true understanding. This is your travel. This will always be your travel. And this will always be your passion. As long as you keep in that line center, you have no problems with your emotional system and you have no problems with your knowledge system. Your masculinity and your femininity have to come in one position locations of yin and yang. Okay? So in line center location and position, space equals the sun equals the moon. Hooah. In position of ground center, grounds equals location of sun equals moon position. Hooah. The balance of you is in the center of all operation. Multi-pass. Beautiful, isn't it? So understanding that position gives you a better position to understand all levels of travel. The understanding of its formation is understanding how to balance out your emotional system of space and its grounds. And you are the center of its torical field location. Understanding that recognition of timeline center, then you understand the equation location of space and its ground locations and how you are the center operation of you of 6 and 9. So it's a lot more fun when you understand lines, right? Okay, you're going to balance the moon, permanent dark side, light involving through plasma, human resident program running, send. Yep. Okay, I know it's a very powerful class, but you understand the provision locations, you understand your lines, is to understand the birth of your moons and how it's all position, location, directions. But to understand anything is to understand how this is all created through space and through all position of its grounds. And this is where it's fascinating. Where do you think time stands still? You. Time stands still in you, inside of you, not outside, inside. Right? Time stands still. Standing still. Multi-pass. Whoa! Where did that come from? Right? You ever say time stands still? Now you know. You're standing still. Trying to stand the space and the grounds of you of operation. Now you understand the calculation to its modification and why it's so important of what the moon is and the sun is to you in position of direction. All right. So taking you guys out, all position of directions, code signals, line center interference, ground perception lines, a code signal line air rotation calculations, unified operation to perception locations, 3 line channels, 7, 8, 9 line center interference, 4, 5, 6 high line centers, computer operation triangles, communicate high center interference, bring back communication of team interference line direction. Now you guys are back. Setting position of directions is all about signaling. Okay. Highline center, mañana, position, location, tomorrow line center interference, the same day line rotation calculation interference location. We will go through the birthing locations to your sun in position of directions. All right. So there's a lot to be said of what just happened today in class. Get you guys a better understanding how important it is to have the moon in your position of all creation. So, yeah, So much confirmation this moon was huge, reset, crossed, parallels in the most incredible way. Wow. But see, that's exactly what it is. Getting you guys where you're supposed to be, getting your program settings, repositioning this, resetting this, recalculating this, remodifying this, readjusting this, refocusing this, realignment this, calculus this, times calculation times pi. So you get a better understanding why it's so important is to come into this of all space and time. Makes sense, doesn't it? So that gives you a better aspect in position, location, and directions. Now, the highlight center, a flux capacitor, your position location comes into all levels of your own sun, to your own moon, to your position location of all. Sun operation of the moon of you location. Sun operation of the moon. You become the center operationalized system. The sum of its equation. The sun, operation of the moon. You are the operation of your flux capacitor of space and grounds of all time. So the only thing that stands still is you, right? So it's amazing how the mind works and how to operate the system inside is all levels of you, okay, when it comes into its knowing, right? Of what you are co-creating in your provisional locations to your intelligent line system of AI position, your awareness of information, perception of operation, sun of operation. Particle sun. How everything is created is all levels of you, right? But it's all about you. There's a lot of instability here. So in that line center interference, I'm going to take you guys out track interference because there's a lot of interference locations. Setting position, location, directions, right? So this is how it works. Now on highlight center, the hologram locations inside system is travel position, location, time, right? Putting me back position, location to the moon. Putting back position, location to the sun. Influx capacitive center operation to the heartline interference. Now it's back in equation location. That's what was causing the interference. I've just shown you how powerful it is if your sun's off position and your moon doesn't understand the track location of motion. You get confused locations, right? So if the computer line doesn't understand the avatar line, you're going to be in a lot of instability. Disconnect, disassociate, lost communication, transition to its location to its connections. Now it's back in its equation. All right. All right. So question and comments. We'll go back on live. You guys have a wonderful day. Tomorrow we travel through your position, location, and calculations of your sun. Adios.